Have you ever imagined what the world in 2250 might be like? A place where cities are no longer dreary concrete blocks, but colossal living beings, breathing through lush green leaves interwoven with glass and steel, where millions of souls survive within the embrace of arcologies, towering mountains that devour the sky. A place where energy no longer burns from coal or oil, but flows endlessly from the molten core of oceans, from desert mirrors reflecting the sun, and from artificial constellations hovering in orbit, yet still clutched tightly by the greedy hands of giant corporations like the last precious treasure. A place where humanity is no longer the fragile creatures of the past, but reshaped by genetic engineering, some living 150 years, with minds sharp as blades, others clinging to nature like a sacred curse, and between them hybrids, children born of flesh and machinery, of Earth and the fiery red of Mars. It is a world where memories can be bought and sold like commodities, where wars are fought not with bullets, but with fabricated dreams infiltrating the mind, where Mars has become a homeland with tall, slender residents calling themselves Martians, and generation ships silently drift toward Proxima Centauri, carrying the seeds of a humanity, or post-humanity, that has never existed. But behind these wonders lie scars, the submerged coastlines of Miami and Jakarta, deserts swallowing ancient cities, and the eternal question echoing among the stars: who are we when we have changed so much? Let us step into that journey, where the future is not a dream, but a story being written by our own choices. The engine of these wonders is power. Energy no longer burns. Coal and oil, once kings of civilization, are relics now displayed in museums. Power flows instead from controlled fusion deep beneath the oceans, from orbital swarms of solar collectors circling like artificial constellations, from mirrors stretching across deserts, from tides bent by quantum fields. In theory, energy is infinite. In practice, it is guarded as fiercely as gold once was. Corporations and alliances monopolize its flow, and a blackout is no longer a technical failure. It is an act of war. Humanity has solved scarcity, but not greed. The map of nations has fractured and recombined. Borders drawn by rivers and mountains have dissolved into shifting megablocks. The Pacific Alliance stretches from California to Tokyo, binding together economies that once competed. The Pan-African Union thrives on solar wealth, deserts transformed into seas of light. The Arctic Consortium rules thawed trade routes, its ships navigating waters once locked in ice. Alongside these blocks rise stranger entities still, corporate territories, governed not by states, but by companies whose logos are sovereign as flags once were. And there are experimental democracies where every citizen, linked by neural interfaces, votes daily on law and policy, governments rising and falling with the speed of viral moods. And then there are the silent zones, irradiated plains, deserts of salt, drowned deltas, regions no longer habitable for flesh, patrolled only by drones, mined by autonomous machines. Maps mark them not as nations, but as absences, voids of silence. Yet the most radical change is not the map of land, but the map of the human itself. In 2250, the body has been remade. Longevity is routine. Most live past 140 years, some approach 180. Nanomedicine patrols the bloodstream, repairing cells before disease takes hold. Cancers are erased before they form. Organs replaced not with donors, but with bioprinted replicas sculpted from one's own DNA. Age still comes, but stretched thin across decades. Memory too is mutable. Experiences can be archived, replayed, even traded. For the wealthy, entire lifetimes exist as libraries to revisit at will. For others, fragments remain, a birth, a death, a moment of love. Memory markets flourish, but they carry peril. Stolen recollections are traded like contraband. False memories are injected to bend trust, elections, even entire wars. What is truth when memory itself can be manufactured? Genetics, once taboo, is now routine. Children are not left entirely to chance. Artificial wombs grow embryos shielded from harm, while parents or corporations select for resilience, immunity to heat, cold, radiation. For the wealthy, enhancements extend further. Sharper reflexes, stronger bodies, faster minds. These are the modified. Humans still in form, but beyond in ability. Opposite them stand the naturals, billions unaltered, carrying the same frailties as their ancestors. The new inequality is not wealth versus poverty, but design versus born. Beyond Earth, humanity has scattered. Mars is no longer an outpost, but a home. Cities glow beneath domes, connected by tunnels carved into red stone. Generations born on Mars know no other sky than pink dust storms and twin moons. Their bodies adapt, taller, leaner, bones lighter, under weaker gravity. They call themselves Martians, and though they descend from sapiens, their identity is their world. Europa shelters colonies beneath ice. Lantern cities glow in frozen ceilings, suspended above oceans of mystery. Divers explore dark waters in armored suits, seeking life that may have waited in silence for eons. Titan hosts methane cities, glowing under orange haze, settlers altered for cold and chemical air. The solar system is no longer empty. It is a mosaic of civilizations, each shaped by its world. Earth is still the mother, but her children grow apart. The climate tells its own tale. The Amazon, once shredded, is regrown through bioengineering, its trees hybrids of nature and design, glowing faintly with engineered chlorophyll. Coral reefs bloom again, reborn with synthetic life, colors brighter, patterns stranger. Yet Antarctica has melted. Seas rose, meters high, swallowing coastlines. Venice, Miami, Shanghai, submerged museums of arrogance. Divers swim among ruins where gondolas once floated. Tourists glide through glass submarines above avenues that were once streets. Memory turned to spectacle. Culture reflects the fracture. Languages have merged into global hybrids. English woven with Mandarin, Spanish, and code. Music is no longer just sound, but entire sensory landscapes, broadcast directly into the mind. Art is everywhere, but its meaning is contested. What is creativity when machines produce masterpieces in seconds? Religion persists, but in forms unrecognizable to ancestors. Some worship technology itself, calling it divine. Others retreat into neo-tribal traditions, seeking purity in an over-engineered world. Pilgrimages span both physical deserts and virtual landscapes, temples glowing in stone and in data. Faith remains, but it evolves. Inequality deepens. The modified stride with confidence, their lifespans extended, their minds enhanced. The naturals protest, demanding dignity in unaltered flesh. Movements rise, some peaceful, some violent, insisting on the right to remain human without modification. Riots erupt in megacities, clashes ignite in orbital colonies. Justice struggles to adapt. Is assault the same when committed by bodies of different strength? Is thought the same when one mind processes in seconds what another needs hours for? Laws fracture under biology itself. And when peace fails, war waits. But the wars of 2250 do not resemble those of centuries past. Neanderthal armies once fought with muscle, industrial wars with machines, digital wars with data. Now, war is fought with perception itself. Networks collapse, memories are rewritten, false realities spread faster than armies march. Yet physical battles remain. Drones clash over deserts and seas. Satellites shatter into storms of shrapnel in orbit. On Mars, rebels demand independence, their red soil stained darker. War is no longer fought for land, but for meaning. Amid the chaos, humanity gazes outward. Generation ships depart for Proxima Centauri. Crews knowing they will never return, their descendants born under alien suns. Faster than light travel remains a dream, but the dream drives billions. Some call this the age of expansion. Others whisper it is the age of hubris. Inequality festers beneath abundance. The modified, the enhanced, enjoy privileges beyond the reach of naturals. They work faster, live longer, think sharper. Their presence in boardrooms, in councils, in research labs is dominant. Naturals remain in roles of labor, tradition, and protest. A natural lifespan of 90 years is now considered short, a disadvantage that marks one as obsolete in a society where time itself is currency. This divide fuels unrest. In megacities, protest marches demand a ban on enhancements. On Mars, natural-born settlers call for independence from Earth's corporate control. In Europa's colonies, hybrid children, offspring of modified and natural, struggle to claim identity in a world that questions their legitimacy. Justice bends beneath these pressures. A modified soldier can crush a natural with a single blow. Is that equal crime or unequal biology? A memory engineer can rewrite events so that a jury recalls false evidence. What is justice when memory itself cannot be trusted? Entire schools of jurisprudence arise to answer these questions, but none provides certainty. Courts become theaters where biology, technology, and philosophy wrestle for meaning. Education fractures under the same strain. No single curriculum can serve all. Modified children process equations in seconds. Natural children require years. Some schools segregate by design. Others integrate, forcing teachers to balance incompatible speeds of thought. In some regions, education has become wholly virtual. Knowledge uploaded, skills simulated, entire lifetimes of experience condensed into days. But in poorer enclaves, children still gather in classrooms not unlike those of centuries past, chalkboards and paper surviving in shadows of glass towers. Culture reflects both fusion and division. Music is no longer confined to sound, it is immersive experience. A concert in 2250 is an orchestration of light, vibration, taste, and shared memory. Entire crowds feel the same heartbeat, the same tear, the same euphoria as a performer transmits emotion directly into their nervous systems. Yet even here, inequality lingers. Modified audiences perceive entire layers of complexity naturals cannot detect. Art becomes stratified, some works invisible to the unaugmented. Visual art has become both monumental and microscopic. Arcology walls stretch with murals painted by drones at scales that dwarf mountains, while hobbit-sized artisans craft nanoscopic sculptures viewable only under quantum magnification. Entire symphonies are encoded in a bead. Entire histories engraved on a grain of sand. Humanity creates endlessly, yet meaning dissolves into infinite production. Inequality festers beneath abundance. The modified, the enhanced, enjoy privileges beyond the reach of naturals. They work faster, live longer, think sharper. Their presence in boardrooms, in councils, in research labs is dominant. Naturals remain in roles of labor, tradition, and protest. A natural lifespan of 90 years is now considered short, a disadvantage that marks one as obsolete in a society where time itself is currency. This divide fuels unrest. In megacities, protest marches demand a ban on enhancements. On Mars, natural-born settlers call for independence from Earth's corporate control. In Europa's colonies, hybrid children, offspring of modified and natural, struggle to claim identity in a world that questions their legitimacy. Justice bends beneath these pressures. A modified soldier can crush a natural with a single blow. Is that equal crime or unequal biology? A memory engineer can rewrite events so that a jury recalls false evidence. What is justice when memory itself cannot be trusted? Entire schools of jurisprudence arise to answer these questions, but none provides certainty. Courts become theaters where biology, technology, and philosophy wrestle for meaning. Education fractures under the same strain. No single curriculum can serve all. Modified children process equations in seconds. Natural children require years. Some schools segregate by design. Others integrate, forcing teachers to balance incompatible speeds of thought. In some regions, education has become wholly virtual, knowledge uploaded, skills simulated, entire lifetimes of experience condensed into days. But in poorer enclaves, children still gather in classrooms not unlike those of centuries past, chalkboards and paper surviving in shadows of glass towers. Culture reflects both fusion and division. Music is no longer confined to sound, it is immersive experience. A concert in 2250 is an orchestration of light, vibration, taste, and shared memory. Entire crowds feel the same heartbeat, the same tear, the same euphoria as a performer transmits emotion directly into their nervous systems. Yet even here, inequality lingers. Modified audiences perceive entire layers of complexity naturals cannot detect. Art becomes stratified. Some works invisible to the unaugmented. Visual art has become both monumental and microscopic. Arcology walls stretch with murals painted by drones at scales that dwarf mountains, while hobbit-sized artisans craft nanoscopic sculptures viewable only under quantum magnification. Entire symphonies are encoded in a bead. Entire histories engraved on a grain of sand. Humanity creates endlessly, yet meaning dissolves into infinite production. Religion has not vanished. It has transformed. Some worship technology, proclaiming that the singularity of intelligence is the divine. They kneel before the servers of ancient AIs, treating their algorithms as scripture. Others reject all modification, preaching neo-tribal purity. To remain natural is to remain sacred. Pilgrimages take place in both deserts and data streams, worshippers traveling through virtual temples rendered in perfect light. Faith divides as much as it unites. For some, the divine is found in progress. For others, it is found in refusal. And then there is the environment, scarred, stitched and scarred again. The Amazon glows with engineered trees, their leaves designed to capture carbon at rates nature never intended. Coral reefs shine with synthetic life, dazzling yet fragile. Antarctica is gone, seas risen meters high. Coastlines have redrawn themselves. Nations of old, Bangladesh, the Maldives, exist only in memory, their people scattered into diaspora, across arcologies and colonies. Earth is alive, but altered, more artifact than wilderness. Food, too, has transformed. The great farms of the past are relics. Most food is grown in vertical towers or printed from biomatter. A steak is sculpted cell by cell in a nutrient bath. Fruits are grown year-round under artificial suns. Hunger has been solved in theory, yet famine persists wherever distribution fails. In flooded deltas, in lawless enclaves, in regions abandoned by corporate states, starvation remains a weapon of politics. Society itself is restless. Identity fractures along lines of birth, of design, of loyalty. Are you natural, modified, or hybrid? Are you corporate, national, or stateless? Are you earthborn, Martian, or colonist of Titan? Each answer is a banner, and each banner risks conflict. Conflict does not always mean war, but when war comes, it carries forms unimaginable to ancestors. Neanderthal armies fought with muscle, industrial wars with steel, digital wars with data. In 2250, war is fought with perception. Memories are hacked, realities falsified, identities erased. A population can be convinced it has already lost before the first drone fires. Yet war also remains physical. On Earth, swarms of autonomous machines clash in deserts and seas. In orbit, satellites are shattered into storms of shrapnel, choking space. On Mars, rebels stain red soil darker with blood. On Europa, colonies sabotage one another beneath frozen ceilings. War is no longer for land alone, but for meaning, for perception, for survival itself. And always, amid chaos, humanity looks outward. Generation ships depart for Proxima Centauri, their crews knowing they will never return, their descendants destined to live and die among alien stars. Even without faster than light, humanity reaches outward, scattering seeds of itself across the void. Some call this the age of expansion. Others call it the age of hubris. But the oldest questions endure. Who are we? Where are we going? Are we transcending humanity or betraying it? Is survival the measure of success or is meaning? For in 2250, survival is almost guaranteed, but meaning remains elusive. Yet to truly understand the world of 2250, we must step away from the towers and the wars, the politics and the machines, and walk into the daily lives of its people. For civilization is not measured only in its monuments, but in its mournings, its rituals, and its private dreams. Picture a home in one of the great arcologies. At dawn, the walls glow softly, adjusting to simulate sunrise even in the middle of a storm. A family wakes not to the sound of alarm clocks, but to the subtle shift of air and light. Their breakfast is printed fresh, grains synthesized from recycled proteins, fruit grown in hydroponic gardens within the tower itself, meat cultured overnight in nutrient baths. For some, flavors can be chosen like colors from a palette. For others, meals are rationed, standardized by corporate regulations. Hunger, in theory, is banished, but satisfaction, in practice, remains uneven. Children attend schools where education bends under biology. Modified students process entire textbooks in hours, their brains accelerated by genetic design. Naturals, slower, must struggle through the same material over months. Teachers balance impossible scales, dividing attention between minds that sprint and minds that crawl. In some schools, separation has replaced integration, academies for the enhanced, classrooms for the unaltered. The dream of universal equality fractures into specialized tracks. Yet governments fear division, and so exchange programs force students into shared projects, awkward collisions of speed and skill. In classrooms, as in politics, unity is an experiment, fragile and temporary. Family itself has changed. Longevity stretches lives beyond old boundaries. A marriage once lasting 50 years now endures a century. Some embrace serial partnerships, trading spouses every few decades as identity evolves. Others choose permanence, though permanence itself grows heavier with time. Children are fewer. With lifespans so long, reproduction slows, regulated by quotas designed to balance populations. Parenthood is often elective, outsourced to artificial wombs. Yet bonds between parent and child remain. No machine has replaced the intimacy of touch, the warmth of a small hand in an older one. Even in 2250, love resists automation. Romance, however, is different. Neural links allow partners to share emotions directly, transmitting joy, sorrow, desire, even boredom. Some call it the purest intimacy, others the death of mystery. For what is romance when nothing is hidden? In the megacities, dating is often mediated by algorithms that calculate compatibility not from preference but from genetic code, neurological scans, and emotional archives. Love, once a leap of faith, becomes a matter of probability. Yet against all predictions, people still fall in love irrationally, stubbornly, without reason. In 2250, as in 1250, the heart defies mathematics. Entertainment is both grander and stranger. In public squares, immersive performances turn entire crowds into a single shared consciousness, every heartbeat aligned, every emotion synchronized. In private, individuals retreat into virtual landscapes where they live lifetimes in days, climbing mountains, sailing seas, falling in love, dying and being reborn, all without leaving a chair. Some lose themselves in endless cycles of simulation, preferring 1,000 imagined lives to a single fragile one. Addiction is not to substances, but to existence itself. Religion reflects the same fractures. For some, technology is the divine, worshipped in glowing servers and ancient AIs whose algorithms are recited like scripture. For others, purity is sacred, rejecting modification, clinging to the frailties of natural birth. Neo-tribal cults gather in forests, regrown from ashes, lighting fires under skies darkened by satellites, praying to remain human against the tide of design. And in between are countless hybrid faiths, blending old and new, digital pilgrimages to virtual temples, prayers encoded into quantum circuits, rituals broadcast simultaneously to millions across worlds. Faith has not died. It has multiplied, splintered, and adapted. Philosophy, too, is reborn. Entire schools debate the meaning of identity in a post-human age. Are you still human if half your body is engineered? If your memories are archived and replayed? If your lifespan is tripled, your mind accelerated, your love algorithmic? Some argue that humanity is not a form but a choice, a commitment to imperfection. Others insist that progress is the only essence worth preserving. The debate echoes through universities, across councils, into homes. Every conversation is haunted by the same question: what is human? Art thrives in this tension. In the streets, monumental sculptures rise from living stone, reshaping themselves daily in response to weather and touch. Musicians compose symphonies not only of sound, but of light, vibration, and shared memory, performances where entire audiences cry, laugh, and dream as one organism. Painters etch canvases microscopic, visible only under quantum magnification, while architects sculpt towers that bloom and decay like living flowers. Art becomes less a product and more a process, a collaboration between human, machine, and environment. But meaning is slippery. What is creation when algorithms generate 1,000 masterpieces in a second? Is the artist the one who presses the key, or the machine that renders the vision? The question remains unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. Even leisure is transformed. Sports are no longer mere contests of muscle, but of biology itself. Modified athletes leap higher, run faster, endure longer than naturals ever could. To balance the scales, leagues separate competitions. Unmodified Olympics for the naturals, augmented championships for the enhanced, hybrid games for those in between. Some sports transcend biology altogether, played in virtual arenas where physics bends to imagination. Yet still, the thrill of rivalry endures. Crowds cheer, records fall, legends rise. Whether on grass fields or in digital galaxies, humanity still plays. But beneath leisure lies fatigue. Civilization stretches lives, multiplies choices, amplifies possibilities. Yet with abundance comes exhaustion. Depression spreads not from hunger, but from aimlessness. Suicide is not driven by poverty, but by infinite choice. For some, 150 years of life is a gift too heavy to bear. The question is not how to survive, but why. And so even in 2250, philosophers, priests, and poets labor to give meaning to lives stretched across centuries. Meanwhile, inequality deepens. The modified thrive in research labs, corporations, and politics, their enhancements granting advantages naturals cannot match. Naturals cling to tradition, community, and protest, demanding recognition. Hybrids caught between are symbols of hope for some and abominations for others. Tension simmers in streets and councils alike. Conflict brews not only on Earth, but across worlds. Mars strains under Earth's control, its people calling themselves Martians, demanding sovereignty. Europa's colonies, suspended under ice, feud over resources and philosophy. Titan, isolated under orange haze, develops a culture all its own. The solar system is no longer united. It is a patchwork of civilizations, each shaped by its sky. And yet, amid all this division, a strange unity persists. For in 2250, all know they are part of an experiment larger than any before. The experiment of survival in a universe vast and silent. The stars remain distant, but they call. Generation ships depart, carrying seeds of humanity into the void. Some see hope, others see arrogance, but all agree. The future lies not only on Earth, but beyond. To speak of 2250 without speaking of conflict would be to tell only half the truth. For though technology has flourished, though lifespans have stretched, though energy has become abundant, war has not vanished. It has changed its shape, its purpose, its battlefield. In this age, war is waged as much in perception as in reality. Armies no longer march across continents in neat formations, nor fleets sail across oceans with flags raised high. Instead, they march through minds, fleets sail through data streams. Propaganda is no longer words and images. It is memory itself. Entire populations wake one morning with recollections of battles that never occurred, of treaties never signed, of betrayals never made. Nations fracture under illusions so vivid they are indistinguishable from truth. The most powerful weapon of the 23rd century is not the missile nor the drone, but the narrative, engineered and injected into collective memory. Yet physical war remains, though transformed. On Earth, deserts have become arenas where swarms of autonomous drones clash in clouds that darken the sun. Seas churn with fleets of submersible machines, silent hunters waging battles beneath waves. In orbit, satellites are shattered into storms of shrapnel, their debris circling the planet like rings of destruction, choking the heavens with metal dust. On Mars, rebellion festers. Colonists who call themselves Martians demand independence from Earth's corporate rule. They march under banners woven from red dust, their protests swelling into uprisings, blood-stained soil that never knew rain. Politics itself is war by other means. The Council of Earth, once a symbolic assembly, has transformed into a council of species and status, a parliament where naturals, modified, and hybrids argue not only over laws, but over the very definition of citizenship. Should modified humans count as equals or as a superior class? Should naturals receive protections as an endangered population or be left behind as obsolete? Should hybrids, born of both, be bridges or threats? Debates rage not in whispers, but in shouting chambers, in collapsing governments, in streets filled with protest. Corporations hold their own councils, their boardrooms rivaling parliaments. A single corporation may command a population larger than many nations, its logo flying higher than flags, its decisions more binding than treaties. Share prices move armies. Contracts redraw borders. Loyalty is purchased with wages and sustenance, citizenship granted not by birth, but by employment. For some, freedom means leaving the state to join the corporation. For others, it is bondage disguised as opportunity. Geopolitics of 2250 is not East versus West, nor North versus South. It is Earth versus Mars. It is modified versus natural. It is corporation versus community. The alignments shift as quickly as data flows. Allies today are rivals tomorrow. The only constant is instability. Religion too becomes political. Techno-faiths proclaim that the modified are the chosen, vessels of divine evolution. Purist cults denounce them as abominations, demanding sanctuaries where only naturals may live. Wars of faith ignite in both stone temples and digital cathedrals, fought with fire and with code. To worship is to declare allegiance, not only to a god, but to a vision of humanity. Amid these conflicts, the environment itself becomes a battlefield. Scarcity returns not through lack of energy, but through land, water, and air. Desalination plants hum along coasts, but demand always exceeds supply. Rivers are diverted, oceans mined, skies seeded with machines to control storms. Nations fight not only for territory, but for weather. In Africa, wars erupt over control of rain machines that can green deserts or starve regions into submission. In Asia, glaciers are weaponized, melted to flood valleys, preserved to choke rivers. In space, asteroid belts are claimed as property. Their minerals fueling industries, but also disputes that escalate into skirmishes among the stars. Yet even as war evolves, peace is reinvented. Diplomacy is no longer conducted only by words, but by shared experiences. Leaders connect through neural exchanges, feeling one another's emotions directly, negotiating not only with logic, but with empathy. Treaties are signed not only on paper, but in memory, embedded into consciousness as unbreakable contracts. Still, manipulation lurks. How can empathy be trusted when feelings themselves can be fabricated? Amid these tensions, a deeper transformation unfolds. Humanity is no longer singular. The modified live longer, think faster, feel differently. Naturals cling to frailty as identity. Hybrids embody both, but belong fully to neither. And beyond them, a new class emerges, the designed. Children built not only for resilience, but for purpose. Soldiers engineered for strength, thinkers for intellect, explorers for survival in alien worlds. For the first time, humanity no longer evolves by chance or by nature, it evolves by design. This sparks the greatest question of the age. Is this still humanity or something beyond? When one child is born with reflexes 10 times faster than her neighbor, when another can endure without oxygen for hours, when another can memorize entire libraries in seconds, what does equality mean? When hybrids outnumber naturals, when designed children outnumber both, who decides the definition of human? Philosophers call it the crisis of essence. To some, humanity is a soul, unchanged by biology. To others, it is a pattern, evolving endlessly. To yet others, it is a temporary shell, destined to be shed like skin. In universities and temples, in cafes and battlefields, the debate echoes. Are we preserving humanity or burying it under layers of progress? For those who look outward, the debate is already answered. In the colonies of Mars, in the frozen lantern cities of Europa, in the methane haze of Titan, humanity has already diverged. Martians call themselves a people, their identity no longer tied to Earth. Europans speak of themselves as children of ice, adapted to live beneath frozen ceilings. Titan settlers declare their blood and breath changed by their world. Earth remains the mother, but her children are no longer one family. They are a species fracturing into many. Yet paradoxically, this very divergence may be the key to survival. For as Earth warms, as seas rise, as deserts spread, it is not frailty but diversity that preserves. The naturals remind civilization of limits. The modified push its boundaries. The hybrids bridge gaps. The design leap beyond. Together, they form a mosaic more resilient than any single species could be. And so perhaps the question is not whether humanity survives, but which form of humanity will inherit the stars. The wars of 2250 are terrifying, yet they are also crucibles. They burn away illusions, leaving behind truths humanity cannot avoid. That strength alone does not ensure victory, nor intellect, nor endurance, nor numbers. It is adaptability, the ancient lesson, the eternal law. The species that survives is not the strongest, but the one that can change. And in this age, change is no longer accident, it is choice. In 2250, life is long, yet death remains. Nanomedicine patrols the blood, repairing cells before disease takes hold. Cancers are erased before they form, organs replaced with bioprinted replicas. Memory can be backed up, consciousness can be mapped, and yet death still waits, sometimes delayed, sometimes reshaped, but never erased. For some, this is unacceptable. Movements rise under banners of immortality, declaring that the greatest injustice is death itself. Their temples are laboratories, their priests geneticists, their rituals treatments. They promise not salvation beyond life, but life without end. In our colleges, wealthy citizens pay fortunes for rejuvenation therapies, memory integration, neural preservation. Their bodies may grow frail, but their consciousness endures in substrates of data. Some live half in flesh, half in machine, their voices echoing in both. Yet others resist. For them, mortality is not curse, but meaning. They argue that without endings, beginnings lose value. that without death, life becomes repetition, stretched thin until joy and sorrow dissolve into monotony. These purists refuse enhancements, choosing to live natural spans, to die as ancestors did. They form enclaves where technology is banned, where fields are plowed by hand, where children grow without editing. In their eyes, it is not immortality that is human, but fragility. Between these extremes lies the hybrid path, extended life but finite. To live 150 years, perhaps 200, but not forever. A compromise between fear and acceptance. Philosophers call it the Great Divide. The immortals see themselves as pioneers, carrying humanity beyond biology. The mortals see themselves as guardians, keeping humanity tethered to meaning. Between them lies tension, not only of ideology, but of power. For those who live longer, accumulate wealth, influence, memory. They dominate councils, corporations, cultures. The young see themselves trapped beneath shadows that never fade, and so resentment grows. Some whisper that immortality is tyranny, that the world will never change if its rulers never die. Beyond Earth, these debates fracture further. On Mars, where lifespans are already altered by gravity and radiation, settlers embrace enhancement freely. To survive on a hostile planet is justification enough. On Europa, colonists speak of themselves as reborn children of ice, death, and rebirth, written into their rituals of diving into frozen seas. On Titan, where cold burns and methane chokes, death is constant and immortality is fantasy. Each world forges its own philosophy, its own rhythm of life and death. But all worlds share one truth. Humanity is no longer bound to Earth. Generation ships glide through the void, each carrying thousands on journeys they will never finish. Their descendants will be born, live, and die beneath alien suns, never to see Earth again. Inside their hulls are forests, rivers, cities, memories of the homeworld. Some whisper that these ships are not vessels, but wombs, carrying not humanity, but post-humanity, gestating new species that will awaken far from home. Space itself has become both frontier and mirror. Mars reflects ambition, Europa resilience, Titan endurance. The asteroid belts hold wealth and danger alike. Mined by corporations and fought over by raiders. The moons of Jupiter glow with colonies strung like pearls, each with culture, laws, identity. And beyond, generation ships vanish into darkness, their destinations uncertain, their futures unimaginable. Philosophy strains to keep pace. Are those who leave still human? If they alter their bodies to breathe alien air, if they design children for alien suns, if their languages and cultures drift, when do they cease to be us? Some argue that the moment they sever from Earth, they are something else entirely. Others argue that humanity is not a body, nor a place, but a story, and as long as they remember, they remain. Yet memory itself is fragile. Archives decay, data corrupts, stories shift. A generation ship may arrive centuries later with no recollection of Earth, no connection to its origins. To Earth, they are lost. To themselves, they are complete. The question of identity becomes cosmic. Is humanity one or many? Amid these questions lies the specter of the post-human, the designed child with reflexes beyond ancestors, the hybrid adult with endurance of ice and lungs of fire, the immortal consciousness woven into machine. Step by step, century by century, humanity drifts from its origins. Some celebrate this as destiny, others mourn it as loss, but all acknowledge it as inevitable. For the laws of nature are clear. What cannot adapt will perish. And in 2250, adaptation is no longer accident. It is choice. To remain natural is to choose mortality. To enhance is to choose difference. To design is to choose departure. Each path diverges, and no path leads back. Religion grapples with this too. In techno-temples, the immortal are hailed as saints, their endless lives proof of divine evolution. In purest sanctuaries, death is ritual, endings celebrated as sacred. And in hybrid faiths, life is seen as spectrum, death as transition, not to another world, but to another form. Faith mirrors philosophy, divided, adaptive, restless. Even art grapples with the post-human. Painters etch canvases visible only to enhanced eyes. Musicians compose symphonies heard only by accelerated minds. Writers craft stories spanning centuries, their characters aging as slowly as their readers. For naturals, much of this art is inaccessible, invisible. Culture itself fractures along biology, and yet art persists. Always, humans, whether natural, modified, hybrid, or designed, create. And so the question deepens. If humanity endures through change, at what point does it cease to be humanity? If a child breathes methane on Titan, if another sails Europa's oceans, if another lives 3 centuries in a machine, are they still human? Or are they something else, something new? In 2250, the answer remains elusive. Some say we have already crossed the threshold, that we are post-human now. Others say we cling still to memory, to story, to love, and as long as these remain, so does humanity. And yet, in the silence between stars, in the glow of arcologies, in the hum of machines, another whisper emerges. Perhaps the question is not whether we remain human, but whether human was ever fixed at all. The year 2250 is not an ending. It is a hinge, a threshold, a breath held between what humanity has been and what it is becoming. To look at this world is to look not only at what exists, but at what it means. For civilizations are never judged by their power alone, but by the legacy they leave behind. The question of legacy haunts every council, every classroom, every colony. What do we pass forward? What remains when we are gone, or when we are transformed beyond recognition? In archives carved into lunar stone, librarians inscribe the total memory of humanity. Every book, every song, every law, every failure. They etch not only the triumphs, but the crimes, not only the victories, but the betrayals. They know that memory is fragile, and that civilizations vanish not only by destruction, but by forgetting. Their mantra is simple: we write so we are not erased. But memory is contested. In Earth's corporate towers, histories are rewritten to favor sponsors. In Martian councils, records are filtered through colonial pride. In purist enclaves, digital archives are burned, replaced by oral traditions passed from elder to child. The truth of humanity fractures into narratives, each claiming authenticity, each dismissing others as lies, and so future generations will inherit not one history, but many. Art wrestles with the same burden. Some artists immortalize the old earth, painting oceans that no longer exist, forests drowned, animals extinct. Others exalt the new humanity, hybrid figures glowing with enhancements, post-human icons celebrated as saints. Still others rebel by creating works of absence, empty canvases, silent songs, spaces carved in stone to remind the future of what has already been lost. For art, like history, asks, what do we choose to remember? Religion, too, claims a role in this inheritance. Some faiths preach that humanity's destiny is to leave Earth behind, to spread across stars, to become the seed of new creation. Others declare that salvation lies in return, in stripping away enhancements, in remembering the soil, the sky, the fragility of the natural body. And still others fuse the two, proclaiming that the divine lies not in one path or the other, but in the struggle itself, the eternal tension between preservation and transformation. But the deepest legacy is not written in archives, nor painted on walls, nor preached from temples. It is written in the body. Hybrid children walk the streets of Earth and Mars, neither natural nor modified, neither wholly sapiens nor wholly other. In them lies the truth of the 23rd century, that humanity does not remain by resisting change nor by surrendering to it, but by blending, by negotiating, by enduring. These children carry the fragments of all who came before, fragile, flawed, magnificent. They are the story embodied, the archive alive. And yet, beyond these legacies, a darker question looms. Who will write the history of 2500? Will it be humans, still clinging to flesh and memory? Will it be machines calculating without grief or joy? Will it be hybrids who see both sides and belong to neither? Or will it be silence, the silence of civilizations that rose too high and fell too hard, leaving only ruins for future archaeologists to puzzle over? For if history teaches one truth, it is that no power lasts forever. Egypt, Rome, the empires of the 20th century, they believed themselves eternal, and yet their ruins are studied as relics. Why should 2250 be different? Why should arcologies of glass and steel, ships drifting between stars, quantum archives etched into moons, not one day be ruins too? Perhaps the real question is not whether humanity will endure, but how. Will it endure as flesh, as data, as myth, as memory? Will it endure in stories whispered by descendants who no longer look like us, or in monuments we built that no one remembers why? Or will it endure in something smaller, simpler, a song sung by a child beneath an alien sky, carrying words long forgotten on Earth, but alive still in voice and breath? For in the end, survival is not the measure of greatness. Dinosaurs survived for millions of years, yet left no story but fossils. Humanity may endure for millennia, but without meaning, without story, it will be as empty as stone. The true legacy lies not in how long we last, but in what we leave behind. And so, as 2250 unfolds, the future remains unwritten. The Council of Species debates survival. The corporations chase profit. The colonies strain for independence. The hybrids redefine identity. But somewhere, in silence, a child asks a question no algorithm can answer. Who are we? The answer will not come from archives or temples or laboratories. It will come from choices, millions of them, scattered across Earth and Mars and beyond. Choices about love, about memory, about life and death. Choices that define not just what humanity is, but what it means to be. And when the historians of 2500 look back, if historians remain at all, they will not ask how powerful we were, or how vast our cities stood, or how far our ships traveled. They will ask what it felt like to be human. They will ask if we remembered, if we created, if we loved. For in the end, that is all legacy is. Not towers, not machines, not immortality, but the echo of a voice saying, We were here. We dreamed. We mattered.